So welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. And today I wanted to speak a little more about our upcoming March intensive that begins this coming Sunday, March 23rd. Give everything up for freedom, realizing the true nature of I and the missing link to awakening. There are many topics and areas that I want to address in this 3-week intensive. One of them being the fear of the unknown and removing, or how to remove the fear of the unknown. But before we go there, there's so much going on in the world these days, and many of us are affected by that. And if you are affected by that, please realize that there's nothing we can do about the reactivity that arises here. However, there's definitely something we can do about how we are with what arises here. And also, what is it that we are going to use it for? We can use our reactivity to fuel the story, to fuel the interpretation of what's going on. Or we can use our reactivity to be more deeply present and really allow it to take us deeper into the unknown, into the reliance on our true nature. Because when I say unknown, and of course, still as a side comment, for some of us, what's going on in the world means to engage, means to, do something about it. If that is the movement and the momentum, of course, why not, right? Of course. But I want to speak a little more about the unknown because, in the mind projects an image of continuity. In the mind, we have an idea of what life, what world, what relationships, other people, us, our experience, what is it going to look like, right? And that's, on the one hand, very, very subtle stream, but also very, very strong most of the time. We don't even realize, that day by day, moment by moment, we have this imagery, we have these thoughts, we have these ideas. You wake up in the morning and you think this is what's going to happen and that's how it's going to be, right? And that, fools us into believing, that's often where suffering comes from, because we believe this is true, right? The imagery that comes, the sense of continuation. But in reality, we really, really don't know what's going to happen. And so when I speak about the unknown, I mean, or living in the unknown, or resting in the unknown, I'm speaking about that honesty of knowing moment by moment by moment, that even though we imagine, even though we have the mind present us with this image of continuation, that in reality, moment by moment, we really don't know honestly what's going to happen. Unless we do, which sometimes we have these real premonitions or real visions about what's going to happen, right? And that is such a, fine edge, because it's not really about giving up. It's not really about suppressing. It's not really about avoiding. It's really about realizing that moment by moment by moment, in this moment also, that's what we have, right? We only have this right now in this moment. So when it comes to our spiritual journey, spiritual experience, or awakening, we often have this idea of what our life is going to look like or could look like after awakening, which it often manifests actually as fear. oftentimes as fear, you know, of what's going to happen, or fear, or even fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, right? We are afraid of what it could look like. And that fear is based on things we have read, things we have listened to, things we have imagined, things we have been thinking about. But it's not really based on what's going to happen, because awakening is unfathomable. It's not known to us yet if we are before awakening. So in truth, in honesty, we can't know. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, one thing that Papaji used to say was, don't worry about the fear, because when you surrender, the fear is going to disappear as well. You know, I'm going to say that again. Don't worry about the fear. Because when you surrender, and that's true, I can say that from my own experience, when you surrender, the fear is going to disappear as well. However, if you are sitting and experiencing that edge of you could go farther, you could really let go, you could really let yourself be here, and that fear arises and that imagery or ideas of what would happen, you know, recognize it for what it is. This is the past. These are just thoughts, ideas, imaginations of what's going to be, like the daily imaginations we have about our life or the world or others or our own experience, right? It's just an imagination, it's just an idea. See it for what it is. Because seeing it for what it is would allow you to come back, to rest here, to rest in the present. So I'm very much looking forward to our time together. And if you are enjoying these videos, please subscribe and share and comment. And you have been, and like, and you have been liking and commenting a lot more. And I really, really appreciate that. That really helps us to make this more accessible and more visible. And I'm very much looking forward to our time together.